Aaron Nabus here, and welcome back to the Hall H Show. We hope you've been enjoying our DesignerCon 2017 interviews. One thing that I have noticed after going to DesignerCon last year and also the year before that is the growing presence of 3D printed art. Fortunate for us that David White, the owner of Mecha Zone and the creator of the Mechanauts and Predanauts 3D printed line of toys, spent some time out of his busy day at last year's DesignerCon to talk about his passion for this growing medium. One reason he has been able to successfully jump into 3D printing is that he has 3D modeling skills, which he picked up during his video game design days. He also is well versed in illustration and animation. Please make sure to check out some of his concept arts and design sketches on his Instagram. Look him up under Mecha Zone. I enjoyed this conversation with him, and I look forward to seeing him again at this year's DesignerCon 2018, which takes place in Anaheim, California, November 16 through 18, 2018. Make sure to check him out at booth 2530. Once again, that's booth 2530. And also check out the video version of this interview, which also includes some footage of some of his creations on our YouTube channel, or the blog post for this episode on our website, hall-h.com. Everybody, welcome to the Hall H Show. We are at DesignerCon 2017, Pasadena Convention Center, and we are joined by Mr. David White,
right,
of Mechanauts fame.
Right, I go by Mecha Zone online.
Oh,
yep.
Sorry,
Mecha
Zone?
That's my label, so you got it right.
All right.
Mechanauts are my toys.
That's right. Those are some awesome little toys, man. And they're getting bigger.
Well, technology affords us some diversity. So my normal figures are about 6 inches tall, but I can double or even triple them because my new printer has a big platform, so I can print them overnight or even leave things going over the weekend. And then I have big toys.
Cool.
So it's great. They're really fun, right?
Yeah. We'll take some pictures and shoot some video at your booth later. But before we get into that, I kind of want to let our audience get to know you a little bit better. You're from Connecticut?
Actually, right now I live in Western Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Yep. And I've been there about 20 years. But before that, I grew up in Indiana.
Okay.
And I went to school at the Columbus College of Art and Design in Columbus, Ohio. Studied illustration and animation. And I took a lot of great classes, not just figure drawing and painting and color theory, but also sculpture, shape design, 3D dimensional design, how to work with textures, translucency and color, everything all together. I learned how to make molds, armatures, do alginate casting, all the stuff you would see on that Face-Off show where people do monster makeup. I learned how to do all of that.
Oh, wow.
So even though for most of my career I've been either an illustrator or a video game maker where I make the models for the games, I had all that extra knowledge. So when I decided I wanted to make toys, it all just clicked together. I just had to sort of refine my skill set, and it worked.
And were you always creative, even at an early age?
Yeah, I think so. I took everything apart that I had, and then if there were any spare, like cardboard rolls or aluminum foil or hangers or whatever, you had to be careful because I was cutting them apart and making new stuff. Yeah.
So you took apart the Betamax or the VCR?
Well, no. When we had those, we had a VCR that weighed literally 40 pounds, and the mechanism on top, if you left anything on top of it, you would eject it, and it would pop up, and it would send it literally 5 or 6 feet. I know, right? And that thing lasted 30 years.
Wow.
But no, it didn't cost like $400.
I believe it.
Yeah. So we didn't mess with that. No.
So what were you into as a kid?
I was really into dinosaurs. And
do you have a favorite dinosaur?
I like the Ankylosaurus. I don't know why. The one with the big bulbous spiky tail.
Okay.
Looks like almost like a big armadillo with
got it.
Spikes around the side. Yeah. Yep. I always liked that one. The duck-billed dinosaur. I was never the big carnivore kind of guy.
I was always reading for the Triceratops.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah. Well, do Triceratops really exist anymore, though?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Now they've found them to be like a juvenile form of the Steracodon, I think it's called.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they just haven't fully formed the plates
I did
between
not
the
know
horns.
that.
We'll have to fact check that
Yeah,
later, but I'm
interesting.
pretty sure that's what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
And I was into Transformers.
Oh yeah.
And Voltron. And Shogun Warriors.
Oh wow.
I was born in the 70s, so
Yeah.
I saw Star Wars in a drive-in theater.
Okay.
And my first toy was action figure was a C-3PO. But I was into everything else too. Crystar and the Dungeons and Dragons and toys, lots of G.I. Joe, anything really. He-Man, but for some reason, even though I remember He-Man being cheap, we couldn't afford them. They seemed to be just enough more where we couldn't get them, So I would just destroy them anyway.
Have you seen the new Voltron on Netflix?
Yeah, I've seen the first 3 seasons. I think season 4 is out now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah?
I think the characters are obviously way more involved and fun. I don't think the show should be called Voltron.
Oh, yeah.
It should be called Voltron Force. Maybe it is. I don't know. But Voltron's hardly in it. And it's a different thing for a different time, which is cool. So I won't criticize it for that. But for me, it's lost a lot of its magic. It doesn't have a cool intro theme anymore. It's just sort of nebulous and, benign almost. But the characters are cool. I just like robots.
Yeah, now that you mentioned, I'm imagining the Voltron theme that I grew up with, when we were kids.
Very memorable. A nice melody to it. It's like so many things. Like the Battlestar Galactica TV show that was on Sci-Fi. The music was horrible. Like there's no melody, so it's not memorable, and it doesn't sort of draw you in. I think a lot of the melody of the opening shows, like even the Fall Guy, had a great memorable stuff to it that you kind of go back to.
Yeah.
And the new shows nowadays don't have that.
You said you haven't watched the latest season of Voltron?
Correct.
Okay, I won't ruin it for you because there's one episode in there that it made me smile.
Lotor's a chick. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
I'll just say it has to do with the Sven character.
Oh, the Sven character?
Yeah.
Well, he died in the original show, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think he sort of came back later, didn't he?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I do remember that we watched recently Go Lion, which is the original title of the show.
Right.
I think it aired in 81, and then Voltron came out here in 84. And so we watched the Japanese version, and the original crew has been captured, and they're in a gladiatorial pit, and they're being fed stew that's made from the losers.
Oh,
so it's all
God.
this cannibalism, And then the American version, that wasn't in there.
Right.
So we thought that was funny. My wife and I both watched that.
Wow. I'll have to go back and look at that one up.
First episode will be easy to see.
Wow. So you mentioned Voltron. You mentioned a whole slew of other titles. Like what else? Were you into like comic books or?
Oh yeah, I read comics too. I was big into the Micronauts comic because I loved the Micronauts. What else I like? I like Teen Titans. Fantastic Four. I had a bunch of older Fantastic Four that I bought secondhand. Some Gold Key Buck Roger comics I was really into.
Okay.
But mostly the Micronauts. The comics for that really got to me.
I can see where the name comes from a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Mechanauts. My original toys were 50% Micronauts and 50% Diaclone. Diaclone, for people who don't know, is sort of the precursor to the Transformers that we know now.
Right.
And they all included a little 1-inch pilot with magnetic feet that would go in it. So we got some of those. They were sometimes called Diaclone or Diachron instead of Diaclone. But we had those little pilots, and I loved them. So my original toy design for the Mechanauts was 50% that and 50% Micronaut.
Okay.
But since I've got up to my newer evolution, I've sort of pushed myself to make the design more original. So it has more of a unique look.
I think when we talked last year or the year before, you had mentioned that you also did some sequential art.
Sequential Arts. Yep, I do children's books a lot. So I've done maybe 25 Hot Wheels books for Scholastic, and then I've done a bunch of Lego Star Wars books for Scholastic also with the Lego property. And then before that, I was a freelancer for Lego, and I did hundreds of pages of comics for Lego Magazine. So if you ever had Exoforce comics, I did some of the Knights Kingdom. Boy, I did so many properties. Agents, everything else. It's all blanking now, but City and Space Police, Mars Mission. I did tons of comics for all that stuff.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but did you work on any like Ninja Turtle related?
Well, I live near Northampton, Massachusetts, where the Ninja Turtles are born, and I know all of those guys. I just walked up to them one day. They were sitting on the courthouse steps having lunch, and I'm like, "What's up, guys?" So it took a while, but they warmed up to me.
Okay.
And they gave me some work. So I've done Tales of the TMNT work. I wrote and illustrated an issue, which I don't remember the number.
How old were you?
Me? I'm 44.
No. When you met them.
Oh, probably 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Been friends for a while. They came to my wedding.
Nice.
They're good. They're good
That's
guys.
Awesome.
They're really good guys.
Huh.
And I don't just mean Peter Laird, because he lives there. It's the production guys mostly that we hang out with because they're still in the area.
Okay.
So, yeah. We also do comic books. Meet up for lunch every Tuesday. They're like my art crew buddies. We talk about Kickstarters we've seen and why is that making so much money? Why don't we have any of that money? So it's good. We run ideas past each other and just sort of commiserate when we have to.
It's good to have that little group right there to sort of pitch and catch. And
Everybody needs that.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a creative group. I think you've got your crew here, your buddies. I'm sure you're all coming up with ideas. Did you see this? Did you hear about the new microphone? What's going on with this?
Right.
It's great.
And you also did some stuff for McQuarrie, the video game, right?
Well, I did a lot of stuff for
Yeah.
McQuarrie, and I also work for BattleTech.
Okay.
I haven't done any in a while, but I was working for a little computer game company called Cyberlore Studios in Northampton, Massachusetts, and we did subcontract work and sequels for different people. So Microsoft hired us to do an expansion pack, but it was a standalone game to their McQuarrie 4 Mercenaries, or McQuarrie 4 Vengeance. And I think that was around 2002. So we did MechWarrior 4 Black Knight, a standalone property, and I did all the mech design. I was the art lead on that project. And then we did MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries, and I stepped down from lead so that I could focus purely on the mechs. And then we did 2 expansion packs for that. And that was fun because not only did I get to make robots, I did a lot of the modeling and texturing, but I also go out to Seattle. It's an actual Microsoft compound, and I trained there for a couple of weeks. Had a 6.8 earthquake while I was there.
No way.
It was scary.
Wow.
Cars shaking and
Jeez.
lampposts and stuff, and you could hear the earth rumbling. But, mechs mostly. It was very fun. And then I also did for the tabletop game.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I played McQuarrie. Probably last time I played was maybe the late 90s.
The McQuarrie or the BattleTech?
I think McQuarrie.
Yeah, McQuarrie. So now they have McQuarrie Online, which I don't have anything to do with. Main mecha designer for that is a guy named Alex Iglesias, who I met at Gen Con a few years ago. Very nice guy. It's awesome stuff.
So, do you have any advice for anybody out there who wants to get into video games? Or
Well, it's a different beast now. I mean, when I got in, my buddy and I got together and we sent out 70 resumes, and we got 2 responses. And then he took one and I took the other. And he still lives in this area, and I moved out there. Now, and the point for that was that we did everything. I did the concept art, then I did the low poly modeling, then I did the texturing, then I did the rigging and the animation and got it in the game. And now you do one of those things. Everything's very specific, and you get really good at it. I don't think video games are as fun. And I also think it's harder to get in as a generalist and be trained, because they trained me on 3D Studio Max, and they let me grow and move throughout the company. And now it just sort of seems like you're a disposable tool, where you get hired for a project and then see ya. We'll hire you back if we need you for the next one.
Really?
So getting in, I mean, you can start low level, there's plenty of jobs, but are you going to be able to stay in? I think that's the real trick nowadays.
Now you just spotted off a few terms that I'm not really too familiar with, like the rigging and the...
Okay, so you make a 3D model, and it's static. It's just a statue. You need to assign a skeleton to it, and how that skeleton influences the model when it moves, and that's called rigging.
Okay. And what about the other terms that you mentioned, like the
Polygons are the triangles, the mathematical triangles that the models are made out of.
Okay.
And in the old days, you could only have a certain number of these because the math for the computer to calculate the movement and rendering was too high, but now they're much higher. I think we had like 150 polygons or triangles was a lot, and now you're looking at 10,000 per character.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the PlayStation with its burst processing and multicellular cores are really incredible. And then the other one was texturing, and that's where you make up basically a material or a texture like a digital painting, and you wrap it around that 3D model.
I think of it like mapping and all that stuff.
Looking.
Yeah. Do you play video games right now?
I sure do. I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn. I've put in like 70 hours of that game. I love it so much.
What kind of game is that?
It is an adventure game where you play Aloy, and it's an over-the-shoulder game. I don't like first-person games because I get lost.
Me too.
And it's a huge world. I think it takes place in like Utah, and it's in the future, we created machines that could self-replicate and feed and energize themselves on organic matter. So not a good combination. And they did some kind of cataclysmic level event to destroy these machines before they took over everything.
Okay.
And this is in the future after everything's sort of stabilized. So there are tribes of sort of nomadic people, and you have these robots in the fields, and they've been sort of neutral for a long time, but now they're getting rambunctious, I guess you could say. And you're going around, you're trying to find what's causing this problem.
Okay.
Okay, it's bow and arrow, but with like explosive arrows and tips and different armor.
Oh, wow.
And it's just a brilliant game. Not only does it look good, but it's been fun. The controls have been great. The narrative has been fantastic. It's like the best game. I love it.
So if you were to like, make a game for yourself, like what kind of game would you make?
Oh, I'd make a pixel game. I love pixels. I have a Neo Geo arcade system in my
sick.
I love Metal Slug so much, man.
I remember Samurai Showdown and
yeah, everything. So I think I would do like a 2.5D game where you have something more interesting than just pixels, but I would have so much parallax and crazy colors, and it would have the shmups side-shooting accents with adventure built in.
Still side-scrolling stuff.
Still side-scrolling, yeah. But then I would do like how on the NES they would be side-scrolling, and then suddenly, boom, you've got the Mode 7, is that what it was called?
Sounds kind of familiar.
Scrolling around, like for F-Zero kind of thing. I would have mixed modes, yeah, definitely. But I like that kind of vibe. But I would do it with higher resolution and more colors. I wouldn't limit myself to the 16-color palette or anything. I'd just go crazy with it and really sort of imbue it with today's more refined play mechanics. There
you go. This is a Kickstarter waiting to happen.
Yeah, just no programming skill. Zero. Yeah.
Now, maybe we can sort of segue into your 3D printing. How did you get into that?
Well, a buddy of mine got one, and he's like, dude, you got to check this out. And it's incredible. It was about 3.5 years ago, because I thought they were still either the ones that you could afford. I thought they were too rudimentary, but he proved me wrong. And I already knew how to model for the 3D modeling for the games, and I can design stuff. So I was like, I gotta get into this. And I always loved toys, even though I had never been able to act on it in any way. So I talked to my wife. I was like, honey, can I spend $600 and get this contraption? And the rest is history. I just started figuring out how it worked, and I didn't have access to 3D Studio Max anymore, which is what I learned on because I didn't work for that studio. So I had to find something. And the number one question is, what do you model with? And I use a free program called Blender. Okay. And it's difficult to use because the interface is a little obtuse. But I figured it out. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. And, 3 years later, not bad at it.
Yeah, YouTube's a wonderful thing.
It is. Really is. I've learned a lot of programs through lynda.com as well. Yeah, like I do book layout. I've learned through that.
Yeah, I'm a graphic designer, so I'm familiar with Lynda.
Yeah, right. You're like, how do you do that?
That's amazing. Great. It's amazing what you can pick up, online. I think the internet's sort of like an equalizer when it comes to.
Well, it's a self-motivated person's paradise, basically. You can still be too lazy to look something up.
Oh, true.
But if you want to learn, you can.
Exactly.
That's the best thing.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody starts off in the same place, but there's tools out there and that you can use to help, better your
absolutely.
Yeah.
And right away.
Yeah.
It's great.
You maybe want to get into some of the different type of Mechanauts that you have?
Oh, yeah, we can talk about the toy line split. The Mechanauts have evolved. So basically, it's Mechanauts versus Predanauts. And the Predanauts are sort of a perverted form of the Mechanauts. They've become these like space vampires. And if you go to mechanauts.net, I have the story there. So you can see how it all kind of started.
Cool.
But my third generation toy has really good articulation. There's a ball joint in the chest and double jointed legs and thigh swivel, the whole shebang, mostly what you would expect from a modern toy.
Okay.
And this year I'm going to be iterating some different body types where there'll be a soldier unit, there'll be an biologist unit, because the original unit is an explorer. And so I made different pieces. They're all done. I just need to do releases for them. I have a new bad guy, a new Predanaut. I haven't got a name for it yet, but he has a jackal head. He looks kind of like a Mecha Anubis.
Nice.
And I have the prototype at my table, and I'm getting feedback from people. I got to come up with a real name, and I have to come up with a colorway for him for the initial release. That first color combination has to be it, so people really remember it. So I got to work that out.
Okay.
So 2018, I'm going to be pretty busy getting that stuff done. And hopefully I'll come out with some more backstory. I'm a little light on the backstory. I'm not much of a writer. I'm more of a individual character guy and not a story arc and not a personality then I just don't think about that for the characters.
Now, obviously, you say that, but obviously you came up with it. Like, how long did it take for you to come up with the concept and the backstory?
It evolved over about a year. That is, you know, I'm on Instagram, and I do a lot of sketches.
Yeah.
So I do Inktober, and I do March of Robots every year. And those times are like concentrated development. I keep little notes throughout the year of what I want to do, and then during that 1 month, I'll really just boom, 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 knock it out. And it's through the drawings that I develop things, because as I'm drawing something, why does he have these fangs? Oh, maybe he has this function. You know, he has this personality. So all that stuff is derived from the visuals that I get. It's sort of, you know, a lot of times people they write down what they want, and then they derive a visual from that. For me, it's the opposite way.
You know, you bring up a good point, because in the act of like sort of just being creative and doing it consistently on maybe a daily or whatever, you know, at least you set some time to actually create. It doesn't have to mean anything initially.
No.
But you can sort of use or get inspired from it and maybe use whatever you came up with for a later project.
Right. And I find that the more comfortable you are with the tools, the more likely you are to pick them up and use them. Mm-hmm. So if you're drawing more often, then when you have an idea, you're not going to be like, oh, I'll do it later, or you won't forget it. You'll just, bang, you'll knock it out, and there it is. And sketchbooks, I mean, like the literal sketchbook where you drew the stuff in, not the printed ones you can buy at cons.
Right.
The having that physicality and being able to flip through it and look at old ideas, they can inspire new ideas, or you can aggregate them together into some kind of concept. Mm-hmm. It's really a great way to be creative, because you never know when an old idea is coming to use. I have sketchbooks from college. I have a stack of sketchbooks, you know, like that, right?
Crazy.
You flip through those, and maybe the drawing's bad, but you can be like, what was I thinking? What was I feeling when I did that? And then something can click, and you've got this whole new idea.
That's a good point. So, yeah, audience members, make sure you're keeping that sketchbook collection active and keeping track of your ideas, because you just never know. It might be tomorrow, or it might be 10 years from now, but something that you come up with may bear fruit at a later time.
Right.
So we have a few different segments. We'll get back to your Mechanauts in a little bit, but we have a few different segments of the podcast where we sort of go into something we call the Thunder Round, which is our off the beaten path set of questions.
What is it called?
The Thunder Round.
Thunder Round.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have to hit the buzzer?
No. We should work that into.
Yeah.
But we have the Thunder Round. We also have an Art Watch segment where we sort of give props to other artists out there. And when we say art, we could mean an illustrator, writer, photographer, filmmaker.
Sure.
Cosplayer. And then we'll sort of flash forward and talk about some projects that you can't talk about.
Oh, yeah, right.
So I guess the first question in the Thunder Round is usually I ask what would you do with $1 million?
What would I do with $1 million?
Yeah.
Well, this will tell you who I am.
But you have to spend it all in one day.
Oh, all in one day?
Yeah.
What? Oh, my gosh. Could I buy stocks with it then?
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay.
If I had $1 million right away, I would try to invest it and live off the interest so that I could do more of what I wanted, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there any companies out there that sort of catch your eye? And
no, I don't have any money because I'm a full-time artist, so I don't even bother looking at them. Yeah, it's brutal. Being an artist is brutal.
What if I gave you $100? What would you do with it?
$100?
Yeah.
You want to go out to lunch? Because in LA...
that might be just for one person.
Right, I know, right? Yeah, just go and have a bunch of sushi or something.
There's been a lot of buzz about us going to Mars.
Oh, sure.
With
the EM drives that they're developing?
Yeah. So
I read science journals.
So if you did, get to head a mission to Mars, what 4 other people would you bring with you?
What 4 other people?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'd bring somebody famous so that people would care.
Uh-huh.
I'll bring The Rock.
Okay.
Because that way he can carry his stuff. That's what you're good for, buddy. Who else would I bring? Then everybody else would be smart, way smarter than me. I'd bring a biologist. I'd bring a structural engineer. And I would bring, what would be the last person?
Chef?
Yeah, no, horticulturalist or an agricultural person so that they could work on those things. Yeah, I'd have to be practical. I have to think about how I would survive. So, yeah it would be some people that I don't know but are good at things I need.
Cool.
Definitely.
If you could teleport anywhere in the world right now,
now,
where would you go?
I'd go to Tokyo.
Tokyo?
Right away. But I have to take my wife with me because she really wants to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like what in particular in Tokyo appeals to you?
I go to Shinjuku because it's sort of the hub to every place else I've been there once before, and it was a dream come true. I loved it, and now they have apps that you can automatically translate what people are saying.
Oh, yeah.
I don't speak Japanese, maybe like 50 words, right?
Yeah. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa, konbanwa, ohayo gozaimasu, right? Hajimemashite, atashi wa David White.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Basic stuff. But I would go to Tokyo just because I loved it. It was great. We went to Mount Fuji in the Yamanashi Prefecture. We did an animation tour, so we went to the Studio Ghibli Museum, which is
nice.
yeah. We saw the My Neighbor Totoro sequel movie,
Okay.
Kitten and the May and the Kitten Bus, Kitten May, whatever. And all the shopping districts. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Gashapon everywhere. So I would go back in a heartbeat.
You probably need at least a good month just to.
I had 5 days
Oh, wow.
on the ground there. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And dude, I'm 6'3" and not petite, right? So I'm on the airplane for 17 hours wishing I could die the whole time. And it was worth it.
It's funny. Do you know who Patrick Ballesteros is?
Mm-mm.
He's an artist also here at DesignerCon, but he went on a recent trip to Japan with a couple of his friends. Jin Kim, he's another artist, and also Dave Wilkins. He's a big guy, just like yourself. And so Patrick would draw these sketches every day of their trip there, and he would cap on Dave and
the trials and tribulations of a large man.
So like for instance, everybody would be there, and then Dave would be cut off at the head.
Dude, I literally walked around a corner once, and some woman went like that when she saw me.
He called Dave Kaiju. And
Kaiju, yeah, giant monsters. Yeah. Yep, I have a shirt with Kaiju that I wear sometimes. People don't understand that I'm serious about that.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. Next.
All right. If you were president of the United States, what artwork would you hang up in the Oval Office?
Wow. If I had my choice, and this will be unexpected, I like J.C. Leyendecker a lot. And I would have, he's an American illustrator who really inspired so many other people. I would have a piece of his in there for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if you could be a sidekick for a superhero or a villain,
Ooh.
who would it be?
Somebody who wouldn't get me killed. Let's see. Sidekick for anybody. Superhero. Japanese Spider-Man, because he has a giant robot called Leopardon, and I would like to pilot Leopardon. There you go.
Nice. That's pretty cool. That's something nobody's ever said before.
Yeah, I'm a weird one.
You mentioned an artist earlier. Is there another artist you sort of want to, rep out there for our Art Watch segment?
Wow, there's so many people. Man, I'm on Instagram, and
well, tell you what, we can have you on again, and then you can, rep more artists at that.
Rep more artists. Well, how about you check out Glios and Onel Design, because they make their own action figures, the PVC figures.
Okay.
Those guys inspire the heck out of me. Yeah. Glios.com.
Okay, we'll check that out. And I guess we can sort of go back to your Mechanauts. And maybe we can sort of delve a little bit deeper into the process and the materials that you use. Let's just say that you had an idea for a new Mechanaut. Like how, from like your sketches to the actual 3D printing, like what's the process that's involved there?
Well, we can use my Mecha Not Explore as an example, where I did maybe 15 different body types, and I had a lot of trouble. And I went back and forth. And then I did maybe 30 heads, sketches, all these sketches.
Okay.
And then I finally got one. I was like, yeah, that's it. And it took me maybe 6 months of going back and forth while doing other stuff, which is a real luxury compared to being an actual toy designer for a company, because you would have like a few days sometimes to a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then I did the modeling, and modeling takes me about 2.5 weeks for a complicated model like that. I know because I just did my bad guy. And then the really hard part starts, and that's figuring out the colors. And I printed out test colors. I did Photoshop paint-overs of photographs, and I went back and forth, and I had 2 different color schemes for that guy that I was like, this is it. And then a week later, I'm like, that's not it. So finally, I was thinking, this guy's an explorer. What about astronauts? And I like to imbue sort of metallics and translucents to kind of harken back to the 70s toys and the Micronauts. And I was like, I could do sort of an astronaut color theme. So I got the oranges and the whites and the silvers and the grays, and bam, that was it. And I knew it. So it just sort of worked itself out. But I had to find the heart of that character, and that's when I was really able to work it out. And then I do a prototype test to make sure the colors actually work and that I can purchase enough of this material, because colors are always going out. They just stop making them.
Okay.
And then I put it online and see what people think. And if they hate it, I'm like, oh, yeah, just kidding. that was just a test. Thanks. Yeah. But usually goes all right.
Cool. And maybe we can get into some of the equipment. Like, what kind of 3D printer do you use?
I use Affinia brand printers, and they're not even one of the top 10 best-selling printers. But that doesn't mean much. It's a really high-quality printer. I've been running my newest machines, the H800 Plus and the H480, for about 10 months, I think, now. I run them at least 18 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I haven't had a single breakdown problem. Nice. I've had to replace the print nozzles a couple of times and air filters, but that's, standard maintenance. And they've been great. Yeah, and I told you I use Blender to model.
Okay.
So the other part of the process is the finishing.
You output from Blender also? Okay.
Yeah, right into STL format.
Okay.
Yep, and clean up everything by hand, pliers and knives, because I have to pull off the support material. That's sort of the key. And I use ABS plastic.
ABS plastic.
I like octave filament, but I use probably 10 other kinds of filament too, just to get the good color range. I have about 60 different colors, the translucents and shades of gray. And the last part is the finishing, which is I use acetone to smooth the outside and make it strong and shiny. And I just have a 4,000 milliliter
I did notice
beaker.
the shine on them.
Yeah. It was like candy. And I use acetone in a beaker on a hot plate. That's it. Yeah, all kinds of gator clips and sticks with tape on them and lower them down in there.
So basically, did you learn through trial and error a lot, or just
trial and error a lot? I have a couple of buddies. One guy who goes by Brown Noise, Sanjeev is his name, and then I have a buddy named Ben who goes by Prometheum 5, and we worked out stuff together. I think Ben was the one who kind of found out about the acetone process, and then he helped refine it and taught it to me, and then I refined my touch on it. Sanjeev's the one who actually showed me the printer in the first place. And we have a little email group where we send things back and forth and ideas and, hey, check this out. And every once in a while we'll have what we call a summit, where they'll come over to my studio and we'll bring stuff and other toys that we like, and we'll jam and we'll look at them and figure out how people do stuff and how we did it, and just trade tips.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Cool.
Just like my lunches, really networking.
Right,
It's great.
Right. I think that's an important skill set that a lot of people neglect is being able to network. Especially at a convention. Sometimes I'll see an artist out there and they're not, making that eye contact.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm shy. Well, get over it, because you're not going to eat tonight if you don't make some money.
Exactly. So, that's once you get past the first few attempts, you sort of get into your groove and you find what works for you.
Yeah.
So.
I hate being on camera. I hate seeing myself. So these are really hard for me. I'm not kidding. But I've learned over the years through trial and error and practice how to do it, and because it's essential. And now I actually kind of enjoy it, And I go to colleges. Sometimes I recently went to Westfield State in Massachusetts, gave a presentation to their art department.
Okay.
And I like interacting with the kids. They're so fresh. Sometimes it comes across as naive, but they're hungry for knowledge. And I get energized by that. And also, I like sharing. I like, educating them. And then they ask me questions that I don't know, or from angles that I never thought of, so I learn from them too, and it's been great. And it's all part of that networking.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was recently at a speaking engagement, and me and my boss, I work at a little boutique agency, a branding agency called Chase Design. Shout out to Chase Design. We spoke in front of students at a place called the Jacob Center down in San Diego.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, they sort of help underprivileged kids. They have a design program there. So it was cool just, getting in front of these kids and talking about design.
It's really cool.
Yeah. It's like empowering for them.
And that's the best word. It's empowering, because they're told that they can do stuff, but to meet someone who's actually doing what they want to do, and to hear that, well, yeah, it was hard, and I had to work hard, but I did it. So keep at it, man, And I'm from a little town called Boonville, Indiana. It was about 6,000 people. A lot of people stay there, but it's just like any place else. If you want to do something with your life, now more than ever with YouTube, you have the tools to achieve your goals. Because the people there were good and they're helpful, but getting work is not easy there. So that's why I really moved. I went someplace else. where I could network and interact and have more access to jobs. So yeah, you inspire the kids so they can see, yes, this is possible, and I can do it.
You mentioned goals. What are some goals that you have for the next, 3 years or so?
Wow, that's tough because I'm looking for a job. The publishing industry is not doing well, and since I do children's books, it's getting pretty tight. I've only had 1 book this year. Usually I have 4 to 5, if that gives you an indication. So I've been filling the gaps with more toy work and doing the presentations to the schools because I get a stipend for those.
Okay.
But as far as what I want to do, man, I'd love to keep making toys. I would like to mass produce my toys or maybe go to a company and do legit toys. But I think I have a lot to learn about that. I like graphic design too, but it's not where my heart is. So I'm kind of working on the future. I'm trying to figure out who am I now? What do I want to be? Because maybe I have to do some more education, or maybe I really need to focus on getting to a different place where I can access the work that I want.
No, for sure.
So I'm figuring out. I'm sorry, I can't answer more directly than that. It's really a tough question for me right now.
One thing that I've noticed the last couple of years, especially with what you do with the 3D printing, is the presence of more 3D printing here at DesignerCon.
I haven't looked around, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, like last year, we saw this guy with the 3D pen. Yeah, that was pretty...
That was interesting, right?
Yeah.
The squiggles, but they still were articulated figures.
Yeah. So, I mean, where do you see 3D printing in the next few years?
I think as the resolution increases in the printers, like you can get what's called a Form 2 SLA printer. It uses resin and lasers. Resolution's pretty good. So in the past, they weren't high enough resolution for somebody to do a digital sculpture. I'd make a print and then cast from it, but now it is. So anybody who can't hand sculpt now has another avenue to get to that point where they can make a mold of it. And I think that more and more people are going to use that aspect of it to really sort of get their idea into the physical world so they can reproduce it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's really fascinating to see where this can go.
Right. And they have metal printers too, so it's not just toys. A lot of jewelers are using the 3D printing to make the
jewelers.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's really interesting how they do it. Laser sintering, and then they infuse them with brass and then coat them in silver and polish them.
Okay.
So it's complicated, but it works. Impossible shapes, done. It's really cool. Yeah.
I guess we can start maybe wrapping up the show. Is there anything that we missed that you'd like our audience to know about?
I don't know. I mean, I do books. I do art books called Mecha Zone. Curious about them. They're on Amazon, but they take a huge cut. So if anybody ever goes to my store, which is mechazone.storeenvy.com, I have books there. They can get sketchbook and 2 art books. And that's also where I drop my toys periodically. And I got a newsletter, so nobody can complain that they didn't know it was coming.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely subscribe to that and encourage our listeners to subscribe to it as well.
Cool.
All right. Well, we don't want to keep you from...
Yeah, my wife is probably like, where is he?
But we'll go back to your booth and we'll take some video and maybe we can shoot a short little clip.
Awesome. Thanks. It has been a real pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
I really appreciate it. It's good to see you again.
You too. Yeah, it's been 2 years.
Has it been 2 years?
Yeah, you didn't come by last year. I don't know why.
I thought we did.
No?
Last year was
I thought 2 years ago you came by and you're like, we're going to start up this thing. And then last year I didn't see you. But maybe I'm wrong. It's a busy con.
Well, we're here now. So.
Right? And it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. You're great guys.
We'll have to have you on again.
Yeah, and you do something called ConFit.
Oh, you saw that?
I saw that. You've been working out. Dude, I as a chubby guy, I really respect the tenacity and just the self-control to do that.
Oh, thank you. Well,
tough. It's inspiring.
Interestingly enough, what happened was in the course of us doing the podcast and the blogging and all that stuff and connecting with other content creators and going to all these conventions, we sort of engage and meet, all the different types of congoers that go to cons. And there's a growing movement of nerds and geeks who want to be fit to go to all these cons throughout the whole year. And I sort of used that as a way to, have everybody on the same page. Like, yeah, we enjoy pop culture. We enjoy going to conventions.
It's a lifestyle choice.
Exactly. So the original tagline was, it was originally SDCC Fit for San Diego ComicCon.
Sure.
But we recently changed it to be more inclusive. And to sort of have a bigger umbrella.
Yep.
But basically, the original tagline was SDCC Fit, getting fit for San Diego Comic-Con and for life. So, and it's all about lifestyle change.
Well, I think I've seen a big change in that through the cosplay because the kids or not just kids, but people want to be fit for their costumes.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're going out to show out, and it's been
Yeah.
a benefit and an inspiration to those kids, to a reason to do this. Whereas before, maybe they were just sitting on their couch playing games.
Right.
But now they're like, I could do better at this, or I can get into more costumes or whatever. But it's great.
Yeah.
It's great to see it.
So this is just an example, for me sort of taking it more seriously. Since we started, back in 2014, I've lost like 30 pounds.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty, I recently started it just to keep myself accountable.
That's a long time to keep it up. That's really great.
But it's had this awesome positive result of like connecting with other people and getting everybody into a movement.
Did you hope for that, or is that just sort of a totally out of the blue benefit of it?
A little bit of both. I was hoping he would catch fire because I've talked with other people and they've tried in their own way of trying to galvanize people to come together for this. But for some reason, the hashtag SDCCFit just happened to work.
It really caught on.
Yeah, I think just because San Diego Comic-Con is such a important time of year that you sort of work up and build up to it. So during the year when you're, before Comic-Con or San Diego Comic-Con, you have that time to sort of prep yourself.
Right.
So there's like a leading up to this goal of San Diego Comic-Con. But now we're just trying to spread the word, and we're now ComicCon Fit.
ComicCon Fit.
Yeah.
Great. Good job.
Oh, thank
Maybe
you.
you'll get me on the bandwagon someday.
Join us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I'll bug you.
Yeah, right?
So
I used to be skinny, so I kind of wish I was again.
Cool. Well, let's not keep your wife waiting. We'll go back
right. Got to get back to the grind.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you again for doing
You're
the show.
welcome. Thank you so much.
Peace. Cheers.
Peace.
Talk to you later.